until you get out. Boom. Woo! So I'm back. I'm roaring. It was nice job by you and Jake. I got to watch it from afar, and it certainly was a proud moment. You guys did great. What a nice conversation. Even on my brief little vacation, it was kind of cool. So great job. Welcome to Monday morning.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah, it was great. It was awesome to have Jakester on. He's coming along really well. And, anytime we get a chance to talk about coaching and the experiences we've had working with other leaders, it's always fun for us. And then, you had a great weekend in Santa Fe. Saw the pictures, looked fantastic. Looked like the weather was great and you had a great time.
Santa Fe is one of these cool little towns, flew into Albuquerque, came out of the airport. You got the University of New Mexico right there, which was really cool. And then it's just a sleepy town, Santa Fe is, with amazing food. Absolutely 5-star restaurants, 5-star food, and got to visit with a gentleman named Jay Reddick. Jay, his career spans Hollywood. He produced the Hollywood Squares, which is really the first Zoom call, if you think about it. He wrote all the comedy stuff was involved in all the comedy. Then he teamed up with Joan Rivers to do tons of stuff like the E-Red Carpet. And the guy was just an amazing storyteller. It was so much fun. Shout out to Jay Reddick. What a fabulous weekend. Thank you for your time and your stories. I got directed to a place called Meow Wolf. Now, here's my take on Meow Wolf. Okay. I don't know if it was so bad that people are afraid to say that it's bad, or it's so good and so bizarre. It's basically like a haunted house kind of thing that was founded by the guy who wrote Game of Thrones. So there's only one way to describe it. It was fucking weird. It was this bizarre craziness, different rooms, different stuff. It's probably a 90-minute, 2-hour tour that you walk through this 22,000 square foot house, and you could solve a mystery if you want. That's not my bag, but I'm glad I went. How's that? We have great pictures.
When you say solve a mystery, is it like playing the game Clue? Like, is it like a dinner around Clue?
Yeah, so it's sort of kind of like something happened to the family that lived in this house. It was sort of like a poltergeist kind of thing. And if you want, Gary Sarner, you're right.
Yeah.
It was so out of my comfort zone. It's not something I would normally do. Santa Fe is a very artsy town. We visited some amazing galleries. So not normal for me, just fun, different. But I would give it a recommendation. I would say when in Santa Fe, you got to do that. When in Santa Fe, you got to hit some of the restaurants we hit. But before we do music, because I know we're running a little late, talk to me about the fight last night.
I thought it was fun. So first of all, if you guys didn't see the undercards of the fight, those were worth the $50 to get the fight. I mean, Chad Ochocinco got in the ring, which to see a guy who has done almost every kind of sport there is, started his career as a football player, but has done bull riding, has done, he's raced a horse before. He's done all kinds of crazy things. He got in the ring and bounced around and threw some punches, which was really, really cool. But my takeaway from the main event, which was Mayweather against Paul, was that good for Paul for getting in there, having the guts to do it, right? It was obvious that he trained because he looked like he was skilled and able to bounce around and at least, live through the fight. But Mayweather allowed him to live. Like, let's not be confused at all by this. He is hands down the greatest fighter of all time. Defensively, did not get touched the entire fight and didn't throw punches for 2 minutes out of a 3-minute round, just allowing him to bounce around and work. So I thought it was fun to watch. I thought it was worth the money. And, bad for Showtime. Showtime streaming went down. They were not prepared. So you want to talk about not being prepared and not setting expectation? A bad look for Showtime last night.
And I'm glad you pointed out the real takeaway is that he had the guts to get in the ring and do it. And so I love that. And with that, let's use some music to wake up. What?
No, good. So before we wake up, Jake, shouts out to Arias. Arias was the undercard fight. He's a Del Rey fighter. Unbelievable heart, skill. It was the best fight of the night. You should YouTube that and look up that fight. It's worth a watch.
Boom, let's go.
That's wake up.
Wake up, everybody! Get up! Get up! Get up! Get up! Wake up! Come on! Come on! Wake up, everybody! Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody! No more sleeping in bed. No more about to thinking, time for thinking ahead. Come on now.
So I have a full show today. There's lots of birthdays. There's lots of just good stuff going on in history. So today is going to be music throughout the show. It's Motivational Monday music. So it's on a Monday. We're going crazy. So we're going to start it out by just saying that sometimes things are just unusual. Give me Tom Jones' birthday.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. It's not unusual to have fun with anyone. When I see you hanging about with anyone, it's not unusual to see me cry. I wanna die. It's not unusual to go out at any time. When I see you out and about, it's such a crime. If you should ever want to be loved by anyone, it's not unusual. It happens every day. No matter what you say, you find it happens all the time.
All right.
Still got it.
First of all, Jim Barrett, welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
That's exactly the vision. That's the dance I got going on when I'm listening to that. So to start a Monday, it's not unusual to say that you love Tom Jones. He's one of the most widely recognized stars. Today is his birthday, so we wish him a happy birthday. And there you go. This is part of.
Matt. I love it, Matt. So, and that's celebrating.
This is celebrating the wins. This is letting yourself be you. And in the world we live in, I just found it so appropriate that, it's unusual. This is an unusual world we live in. You got to let go of everything you learned. Pretty cool stuff. So happy birthday, Tom Jones.
Happy birthday, Tom Jones. Do the Carlton.
So today in 1955, on this date, the TV show, The $64,000 Question, debuted on CBS. So some crazy stuff. What is the $64 question? Imagine that. Question that is very important and difficult or complex to answer. Shay, I don't need to go to the other graphic. I know you loaded that. That was really for my notes. But the number 60, so this is a catchphrase that sort of caught on that people use all the time. The show started in Britain with literally $1, and then every time they answered a question, and the prize was $64. So in today's inflation, it would probably be the $64 million. But here's an interesting fact. Here's a fact. So I want to talk about catchphrases, how things come on. But here's a fact. The number 64 is an odd and strangely precise amount. The mathematicians among the show know that it was the smallest number with precisely 7 divisors. How about that? So that's how 7, so the 20.
Yeah, they got the 7 questions. They created an entire structure around the multiplier effect of that. Cool.
So it became a catchphrase. Shay, you can show me the definition of a catchphrase. It's something that is an expression recognized by its repeated utterance, which means Wow. Okay. We have lots of stuff in our vocabulary, especially in TV and movies, that have just become stuff that we talk about all the time and that we use all the time. So
Sure.
I'm going to use the first one from TV, which is also a game show. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I mean,
you have actually
so
used that in a conversation.
well, I mean, isn't that the exact same theme of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? They were asking him questions, and you reach certain levels, and you were adding dollars. But my favorite TV catchphrase of all time, which I use all the time, is "It's the granddaddy of them all," which is Keith Jackson introing the Rose Bowl every year. And
That's
for
true.
me, like, that's a sporting event, but it was TV. It was TV announcing and him talking about the grand, like, I don't care what we're doing. If it's something of significance, it's the granddaddy of them all.
So this is a game. Christian White, Chris White has it totally perfect because you can play this all day long. How about this one? Book 'em, Dano. Now, it comes from Hawaii 5-0. When I say that to some people, when we talk about a date, I go, book it, Dano. They're like, what are you talking about? So it's a real reference from TV. Give me more. Agony
If
of
it stays, though. Yeah, Andrew Feldman comes in with the agony of defeat, 1,000%. So like, I think it goes with the times because the show has to live on for decades. Like, I just watched the Friends reunion on HBO, which was great. Like, I think there were some people who didn't like it, but there's a ton of words that and signal, like, the fuck you that they did with the hands, like that lives on forever for my generation. Obviously, there's a lot that come out of Seinfeld, which no soup for you.
Barrett's on fire.
Yes,
Coming in hard. Now if you remember this one, and I forget the name of the John, the comedian on Saturday Night Live who used to do this. Well, first of all, there's Making Copies, which friend Chaz is here this morning. Gotta love that one. But there was another one, and I just went blank on his name, but yeah, that's the ticket.
Oh yeah.
So lots of really cool stuff that comes, none better than no soup for you. So
And so I think all of that ties into how you communicate, what you communicate, how you talk to people. And if you're using catchphrases, that's a way to connect. That's a way to show up a little bit differently. It's a way to not using buzzwords, which everybody uses, right? That makes you just sound like everybody else. But the catchphrases that you remember, that you like, it helps, you stand out from the crowd.
John Lovitz, thank you, Jeff Bishop, for always being media man. Very nice. So that's TV. The same thing, and I love the way you made that connection, Mark. This is how we communicate. There's a lot of GIFs that people use. So a ton of stuff has come out of movies. None better for me than say hello to my little friend.
Yeah.
So I mean, total classic. Give me some movie ones. Willis was on the list. Way to go, Michelle. Excellent.
It's business. It's not personal. Like that line. There are tons of Godfather lines I'd love to go through because I think it's the best.
So I'm, big Clint Eastwood fan. Go ahead, make my day.
Yeah. So yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Right? You know what I mean? For me, it's so good. Like when I win, when I celebrate a victory, I do that. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Right, exactly. And same. Or like if you're conveying that you don't really give a shit, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Like a very simple way to convey that doesn't really matter. But again, it's how you communicate. It's what you say. And whether you're within a team environment, you're within a selling environment, whatever it is, it creates a different feeling when you communicate that way.
So I love that. So the reason why I went deep on catchphrases is that, see how everybody got engaged in the conversation? We all have different orientations of what would be a catchphrase that we use all the time. You want to talk with, do you feel lucky, punk?
Right.
That's it. This is wax on, wax off. Perfect. I love that. So leave the gun, take the cannoli, man. Fantastic.
Right.
So you guys
Jake,
did
how
exactly-
about no? We do it all the time. All the
So-
time.
So here's the greatest part of this. If you're looking for a way to jump into a conversation with somebody, just ask them what their favorite catchphrase is. Just look
Yep.
at the sparks that are going on here. So great job, Huddle community. What a cool way to exercise the brain. For me, the Huddle is a way to mentally exercise and get into the flow so that at 8:30 we're rocking and rolling and going. And so way to have fun with catchphrases. As I promised you, today would have been Dean Martin's birthday. So tons of catchphrases have come from him, but I have two Dean Martin songs. One that is one of my favorite songs that I just love, right? And it's certainly a catchphrase. And then the second one will take us into a whole conversation about time. Shay, show me, ain't that a kick in the head?
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head? The room was completely black. I hugged her and she hugged back. Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in the boat? My head keeps spinning. I go to sleep and keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. I've sunshine enough to spread. It's just like the fella said. Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head?
Woo!
I love it. I love it.
One of my favorite songs. What movie?
Oh, Goodfellas. Come on.
Goodfellas.
It's like not even close. Just you know it so clearly.
But, you know, I had a difficult time picking a Dean Martin song because he is the coolest. He is really
So
the
many.
epitome of cool, smooth. Interesting fact, he really didn't drink. He played drunk all the time. He did not drink. But this song, which you may or may not know, is going to bring us into a whole conversation about time. So tell me just in time.
Just in time, I found you just in time. Before you came, my time was running low. I was lost, the losing dice were tossed. My bridges all were crossed, nowhere to go. Now you're here, now I know just where I'm going. No more doubt or fear, I found my way. Oh, love came just in time.
Yeah, baby. So I want to have this conversation. First of all, like, where else can you go on a Monday morning and listen to Tom Jones and Dean Martin? And there's one more that's coming up that will close us out. So we will not have Let's Get Down to Business to close us out. So do not leave. But Seth Godin, who's one of my favorites, and we're going to do a whole show on Seth, but he did something a week or so ago called Take Your Time. And basically he says it means two different things. When a person or a marketer takes your time, they're stealing, which is unbelievable. Something irretrievable is gone. If your time is taken for selfish reason, if it's wasted, there's no good way to get it back. And I just love that he put it in that metric. So, you know, for me, the number one commodity, number one thing to own is your calendar. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Time management is such an amazing conversation because when you master the calendar, the world opens up to you. Well, you want to talk about catchphrases. I did some work on catchphrases about time, which is just unbelievable. Like all in good time. Like,
Yeah.
what is good time, right?
ahead of his, which this is the one I can't stand, is ahead of his or her time,
Right.
ahead of their time. Like who? Like why? Whose timeline is that?
So here's an interesting one. Buy time. You can't buy time. Like, can I buy some time? Or from time to time.
Or bide your time, right? Like, just hold on, just stay back, just wait a little bit. I always picture a racehorse when I think of that. Bide your time.
Right, bide your time. So it's only a matter of time could be the best one of all the catchphrases. And we use these phrases all day long. Only time will tell.
I have no time. How about
I
that?
have no time. There's a time and a place for everything, right?
From time to time.
Right. Time after time, time flies. So, what's interesting for me is that, and I have this whole list because I'm adding it to our time management bucket. We're updating all the time. It just makes me freak out that the idea that we have time is the only really thing that you own it. It's your time. And when people say to you,
you should own it. Most people don't own it.
Well, so here's the conversation. When people say, I just didn't have the time, or I wish I could get more, if I only had more time, and we've all said this, I just didn't have time. It's complete bullshit because we all have the same amount of time, right? How many seconds are there in a day, my son?
86,400.
So you ain't getting any more, you ain't getting any less. And there are pages and pages of what they call idioms that we use about time, yet most people don't use the time properly. And if you think about it, and you posted this morning about morning routines are just using your time effectively. Take it out of your head, put it in. And I had this conversation with somebody the other day and they go, oh, well, so just having the morning routine is good. I go, no, you got to write it down. You got to calendar it. You got to move all of your thoughts from your head into something written. That is a good use of time.
And I think, when you talk about time in the sports reference, and the reason that I think coaches look at time differently and we align so much in our time management philosophy is because whether you're a college athlete or a pro athlete, there are restraints around the time that you can work with your team. You can only have them in these months during these times for this many hours a week. So you can't afford to just leave it up to chance with what you're going to do at that time. You have to know exactly what you're doing when you're doing it in order to be able to do the things you need to do to be successful, to build a team, to build skills, to develop camaraderie, and to win a championship, which is obviously the goal of teams. So, when you look at Chad Ochocinco and what he did with his time to prepare to box, it's all about making the decision. But I think most people get caught up in, well, I don't have control because my boss tells me that I have to do these things. And I think when we talk about the power to say no, it's not necessarily the power to say, no, I'm not going to do that. It's the power to say, no, let me tell you what you've already put on my plate for me. Do you want me to reprioritize this at the top, or should I put it at the bottom of the list? Because there's only so much time for us to do these things. How do you want me to prioritize them? So it's the discipline to say, ask the question and have the conversation.
So Shay, can you show me what we do when we run out of time?
We go.
And we'll go to overtime.
Because it's all about time.
It's all about time. The best comment of the day, and there were plenty of them. Please show Tracy Roloff again. Tracy, thank you, because we didn't have time today to actually show that clip because we're going to close out. But it's just your time.
And another great song, Time is on my side.
Yes, it is. So normally we close out with Let's Get Down to Business, but today would have been Prince's birthday. And so we are closing out today with a Prince song. Let's work.
Let's work.